Hello, welcome to the 4th episode of Rainbow Reflections Origins. This series will take a closer look at Rainbow Reflections from its origins to fun facts and trivia. In this episode, we'll be looking at Sarala's origins. Sarala was actually a character I've had for a while. She was originally a character in my old online story, Keepers of the Coffee. In that version, her name was Sandy, and she was an assistant and later friend/lover to C3. I'm glad to say she has changed since then. In the original version of Rainbow Reflections, Sarala, then named Shrita, was supposed to be working at a coffee shop with Jabali and Mint. In the very old version that never got completed, C3 worked with them too, but in the first draft completed, he had actually been removed from that setting. I'll get more into that in the next episode. Anyhow, Sarala ran away from her home situation, where her mother and all her older sisters were abusive towards her. In Keepers of the Coffee, her original family contained a father and several older brothers instead, all of which worked for the government, though she actually never knew that, funnily enough. I changed her family to being more feminine, but still secretive, as I already had two father figures through Hyaktu and Jabali, and wanted to add a mother figure in. But I took out the abusive family in the final version, choosing to just make Sarala an orphan, as her family was just always out of place in the early drafts. Plus, I didn't want a darker story, so I just took out the abuse. In the first version, Sarala also had knee issues. She was originally going to require a wheelchair from time to time. The knee issues were a result of a dancing accident with her best friend/past lover, Cherry, who was scrapped from the story too. She used to be a dancer, but he wouldn't catch her dancing in this final version. In fact, she doesn't even know how. Sarala will still come by knee issues later though. I added the knee issues in as a result of my own knee issues that I faced in the past. This is my reminder to all of you to never walk on your toes. I did that my whole life until 2018 when I discovered that's why I had knee problems, and I had to work on getting my heel to touch the ground again, since it physically could not. So do not walk on your toes. I repeat, do not walk on your toes. Anyhow, we'll be sure to see Sarala going through some physical pains later in the series. Sarala was originally supposed to be one of two main characters, with C3 being the other main character. Obviously, a lot has changed since, which I'll go into more detail next episode. I kept her on as a main character for the first and second drafts, and when I changed things around even more, she still remained one of the three main characters for the final. She's just too interesting a character to throw off to the side, and she provides a nice contrast to the playful and fun Saihan twins. In fact, she's pretty much opposite of Ren. Sarala's been through a few name changes. In Keepers of the Coffee, she was known as Sandy. I didn't want to keep that name for this new version, wanting something more unique, plus one of my other old characters was named Sandy already. I found the name Shrita, which means pure. But that's more of a name fitting to Ren, wouldn't you say? I therefore went with Sarala, which means pine tree. It also means straight, but we know that she's not. Anyhow, I chose this name since trees are sturdy and stand their ground, just like Sarala. Sarala's character is all about stability. Her last name, Kiran, means ray of light, which I chose as she could be like a light in the dark to other characters through her own struggles. Funnily enough though, this isn't her real last name in the final version, and she keeps that name hidden. Even I don't know her true last name. Now, as I said, Sarala isn't straight at all. In Keepers of the Coffee, she was originally lovers with C3. When I was going to revamp Keepers of the Coffee without all these other fun characters and actually put them in the setting of today's world, meaning no magic or fantasy basically, she and C3 were still going to get together. But then they were going to realize that they weren't actually into each other, Sarala only dating him to pretend that she was into boys when all along she knew deep inside that she was a lesbian. C3 would have pretty much been the same way, though I think he might have learned that he was more asexual than gay. I don't remember actually. But either way, Sarala was going to date a boy to realize that she was actually into girls. This was something I kept in the first draft of Rainbow Reflections, as she originally dated Frost, not Ren. But I had her certain of her lesbian identity from the start in the final version of Book 1, so Ren ended up with Frost instead. Let's look at her design now. Sarala is definitely not one to care much about her appearance. She lived in the wild after all. She was more concerned about surviving. She therefore doesn't care about dressing fancy, nor would she know how, and she doesn't care to have a unique hairstyle, which is why it's just parted in the middle plainly. Her gold eyes and beak-like nose give her the appearance of a hawk, and how sharp her eyes are. She's very observant, which is definitely necessary when living alone in the jungle. Her robe is actually based off Katara's robe style in Avatar: The Last Airbender. When I was coming up with the initial designs for everyone, I was looking up robe designs from Avatar as well as Harry Potter and just any other story I could think of. I like the look so much for Sarala that it stayed. Underneath the robe, she likes to wear a crop top and just plain pants and shoes. The pants and sort of dress shoes were originally resembling of her version in Keepers of the Coffee with how she dressed professionally. Sarala's wand is made of sumac, which represents grounding, protection, and activation. This again fits her personality in being stable and looking out for her friends. The wand itself is more elegant and curved than most wands tend to be. Ren gave her a purple agate crystal to attach to the wand, which represents stability yet again. Sarala is pretty advanced with magic, able to command the earth around her easily and control many little stones at once. She also mixes her wand work with martial arts, getting even more power as a result. Speaking of martial arts, Sarala also likes weapons very much. She originally had a broadsword, but then I changed that to butterfly knives instead. But she will still work a lot with a broadsword later on, as it's just so fitting for her. Martial arts is pretty much her only hobby. She loves training and learning more about weapons. When she lived alone in the wild, she would train with her knives or otherwise sticks she found lying around. When she didn't live alone, but still wild, she learned blacksmithing too. She was born in April with an Aries sun sign and a Virgo moon sign. I slightly based her off a friend who was born in April, so the signs definitely fit well. She has earth magic, though I did contemplate with giving her fire magic for a while, due to how fiery she can get. In the end, I chose earth for her, again for that stability. Sarala has definitely been through a lot of changes over time, but at the core she really remains the same. A hardy person on the outside who's softer on the inside, and someone who's loyal and looks out for her friends. I look forward to seeing how much more she changes as I write her.